All right, if you run a local service business, chances are you're having a hard time getting to the top of Google because of large corporate competitors that are outranking you. I'm going to show you how you can easily outrank them and steal their traffic in 4 simple steps. This is a full beginner's guide to SEO for local service businesses. Most of you guys have a hard time getting leads with SEO because you're competing directly against these corporate competitors who are outspending you on Google, which makes sense. It's hard to compete against someone who's got a 6-figure per month marketing budget when you might have $0. However, you can actually use this to your advantage. You can get leads by ranking for searches that they aren't even ranking for, and in some cases, even outrank them. And if you don't believe me, I run an SEO agency, and we've done this with almost every single one of our clients. For example, EcoPro Heating. This is one of our clients who's outranking a regional HVAC company. Another example here, Home Renovations in North Vancouver. This is our client on the first page compared to one of their continental-wide competitors. That means they're operating in Canada and the United States, is on the 3rd page of Google. Finally, Pest Control Virginia Beach. This is our client right here on the first page compared to their competitor. If you look here on the 3rd page of Google, Terminix. This is a countrywide pest control business. In all of these cases, they have outcompeted and outranked their corporate competitors who, like I mentioned before, have a much bigger budget. I'm going to show you exactly how to do the same. These are, of course, just a couple examples, but as you can imagine, these clients, before working with us, are having a hard time getting leads by outcompeting their national counterparts. And of course, this can lead to frustration, confusion, and a lack of growth. And if you're watching this video, you're probably in a similar situation or feeling the same things. But lucky for you, I know what these big corporate chains don't, and that's what I'm going to show you. All right, so the first step to outcompeting our national competitors as a local service business is understanding our competition. We need to understand how they operate, how they work, what they're targeting, what their focus is, so that we can do essentially the opposite of what they're doing. Okay, and so what I'm going to do here is draw out and explain what I'm talking about so that you guys can understand it better. I'm definitely a visual learner, so this is going to help me too. Now, when we're talking about marketing, I'm going to draw something for you guys here, and this is a funnel. Actually, let me redraw that because that looked a little bit retarded. All right, this is our funnel here. It still looks retarded, but it's okay. Now, a funnel, if you don't know what a funnel is, maybe you've heard about the term before in marketing. It's simply used to describe our demographics, marketing efforts, and I'll dive a little bit deeper into that now. But a funnel, at the top of the funnel, you have essentially the broadest, widest content and the broadest, widest demographics at the very top. And then compared to that, at the bottom, you have the extremely niche stuff that your most top of the qualified customers are going to understand and get. So at the top here, as you'll see, I'll mark this in red, you have the broadest content possible. At the bottom, you have your very, very niche content. And so I'm going to type this out here. So I'm going to say niche. Niche goes at the bottom. We'll make that a little bit smaller so it can fit in. And then broad is going to be at the top. Okay. So to give you an example of what I mean by this, let's say you are a local accountant. You just work for local companies in your city. Okay. And now if you make on your YouTube channel a video about the best places to eat in your city, that's going to be a top of funnel thing because that's going to attract the most broad range of people. That essentially applies, that content applies to everyone in your city. Now, if you make on the flip side a video about accounting tips for XYZ type of business in your city, that's going to be a very bottom of funnel topic for your video because you're only attracting people to that video that are in your city who are your demographic of customer. Okay. And so when it comes to your national competitors, where are they competing here? Where are they spending money? And everything you've got in between here, you've got broad, then you've got a little less broad, all the way down to niche. So where are your competitors competing and spending money? Well, pretty much everywhere in this funnel. However, they're spending the most amount of money at this broad section right up here. So I'm going to draw a line here so you understand this. This is where your competitors are spending a ton of money. And in a lot of cases, they're franchises, right? So they might be country or continental wide, but they've got franchises everywhere. And so they might have a bulk budget of like $1 million per month to spend on marketing, but a little bit of that is going to each of their branches in each of the individual locations. And so they're more broad when they're thinking about their marketing. All right, so this is where your competitors are. Competitors. I can't spell. And they don't really care if they're losing money necessarily by being super broad and not niche enough. They don't really care too much because they're making a boatload of money from their marketing anyways. And so, losing some money by attracting a much broader audience is okay for them. And so where do we want to be? You probably guessed it. We want to be down here at the niche level of content. And this applies to your social media. We're talking about SEO specifically today. I'm going to show you how to attract leads from Google search, but this doesn't just apply to SEO. These principles also apply to your social media and your content overall. So we want to be in this niche stage here. And I'm going to show you. It's going to be you right here. All right. Now, the problem that you run into when you try to compete at this broad range, for example, let's just say HVAC, right? HVAC, if I'm trying to compete for that keyword on Google, someone searching in HVAC, that's a super broad keyword. It probably costs a ton of money to do like pay-per-click on that specific keyword. And the difficulty to rank for that keyword is going to be super, ultra, mega high. Those are the keywords that your competitors are trying to rank for. However, a keyword like HVAC services in North Vancouver, which we call a long tail keyword, that is a lot more niche. And that's where we want you to be. And so the question is, okay, I know what kinds of keywords now I want to target. I know where my competitors are spending their money on these keywords. What do I do next? Well, the next step is understanding how the Google algorithm works to rank you for this niche bottom of funnel content. All right, so moving on to step 2, understanding how Google's algorithm works. I'm just going to move over here and draw out a big G to represent the big G, Google itself. All right, so understanding how the algorithm works is going to help us use Google to our advantage and not disadvantage like you're probably using it right now. And a lot of people think, if you're watching this video, it might be you, that ranking on Google and doing SEO on your website, getting organic leads is really difficult. And I'm here to tell you, as a dumbass, it is not. If I can do it, literally anybody can do it. All right. And learning it might take some time. However, once you get the hang of it, it'll be so addicting. You'll get page 1 rankings in under 24 hours. I have a video on how I actually did that, and maybe I'll link it up here, but really it's not difficult at all. So Google takes a lot of different things into account, and we're just going to do a baseline read on the factors that it takes into account when it's ranking a web page on Google for search results. That way, a baseline understanding is all you need. So I'm going to draw out lines to illustrate some of my points here. All right, the first thing that it's going to take into account, these are not necessarily in an order, like it's not literally doing this one by one, but your domain authority. All right, I'll explain what this is in a sec. So your domain authority is, it might be called an authority score depending on where you check. It might be different on like Ahrefs compared to SEMrush, but at the end of the day, the domain authority is kind of a score from 0 to 100 that shows how good a source of information for a specific topic or just in general your domain is. And so a score like 60 out of 100 is a really high domain authority compared to something like a 10 or 12 out of 100. Most websites, if you haven't done SEO before, you might be in like the 0 to 5, even 0 to 10 range in some cases. All right. And so on a local level, a good domain authority where you can like really outcompete everyone is like 19, 20. It's better to have as high a domain authority as possible, but really at a local level, if you're just trying to compete locally, you can get away with like 15, 20, 25 domain authority. I'll show you how to increase that later. But domain authority is one of the things that it's taken into account. Next thing it's taking into account is the quality of content on a specific page. All right. Quality of content. I'll make this caps. The quality of your content is going to be taking multiple things into account. So how long your content is, how many topics it goes over. This could be a landing page or a blog post. And the higher quality that content is, if you're an expert on the specific topic or service that you're trying to rank for, the higher your quality should be. And the higher quality it is, and the more specific you get within your content, the higher likelihood you have of ranking for a specific keyword. Another thing it takes into account is your keyword density. Keyword density. All right. So the keyword density is simply how many times in that page you mention the specific keyword that you're trying to rank for. And so the keyword, let's just say, for example, you're trying to rank for bookkeepers in North Vancouver and replace North Vancouver with your city. If you say bookkeepers in North Vancouver one time in that page, you're going to have a hard time ranking for that keyword. But if you say it, 5, 10, 15, 20 different times in that page, it's going to make it a lot easier for Google's algorithm to pick up on that page and see, oh, this is a page that's clearly talking about this one specific topic. And so having the keyword in your headings, specifically your heading 1, subheading, and the text of your website and the alt tags, images, etc., is going to be huge. Another thing it takes into account, I'll draw this out, is going to be the relevancy of your content. So is your content, did you write this content 10 years ago, or did you write this a week ago or today, right? The relevancy of your content is also going to play a big role in how well your web page ranks, whether that's a blog or a landing page, because let's say you're trying to rank a page that you wrote 5 years ago. Now there's going to be a lot more updated trends in the industry, news, and even ways that people do business. And so having your content be relevant to 2025 or whatever year, even in some cases month, because of how fast trends change, is going to be huge. Okay, so relevancy. And we'll stick with this for now. This is a good enough list for us to talk about and for you to understand how Google's algorithm works when it comes to ranking web pages. And so if someone has a 10 out of 10 on all of these factors when it comes to ranking their website page, then they have a really high likelihood of outcompeting and getting to the first page of Google and then getting traffic and leads from that search term. All right. Now, let's say in some cases, because there's a little bit of nuance to this, if someone has a 40 out of 100 domain authority, but a 0 out of 10 quality of content, you can come in with a 10 out of 10 quality of content sometimes and 10 or 15 out of 100 domain authority and still outrank them. And so it's not necessarily about having all of these things be a 10 out of 10. That should be your goal. However, if you're lacking in one of these departments, specifically domain authority, which I know a lot of you guys are going to be, don't worry about that. All right. We are specifically looking for keywords, for search terms, areas, trends on Google right now that you don't need to have a high domain authority for. That is the goal, to increase that so you can compete against higher competition, better, more lucrative search terms. But I wouldn't worry about that right now. All right, so now that we have a basic understanding of how website marketing funnels work and then how Google's algorithm works, generally speaking, I want to talk about some of the myths and the misunderstandings that people have when it comes to SEO that leads to this frustration and confusion around ranking and outcompeting their competitors. The most common piece of advice that I see given on websites and marketing in general, like when it comes to social media, is just post content consistently. Like make content, make blogs, landing pages on your website. However, while that advice may come from a good place, it's not relevant and it's not true. You don't just have to post content. You need to post specific content. And I'll show you what I mean by this. So let's say you've got your website, right? I'll draw out a example website here. It's not going to be the most beautiful thing, but it's going to work for now. Okay, you got your logo and you make content on your website. You just post content, blogs, landing pages, whatever. What's probably happening, and on the opposite scale, you might have too little content. You post it and Google picks up on it and it sees, okay, this content is, in the middle, you got some niche content, you got some broad content. And because of that, when you're actually ranking, it spits out and you end up on page 3 of Google. this is not what we want. We don't want to be on page 3 of Google. The reason you get to page 3 and not to page 1 is, again, because Google, the algorithm, is confused by your content. It doesn't necessarily know what your website's about, what you're trying to rank for, what your specific niche is. And so it's just ranking quality content with a higher domain authority at the top of Google because it's going to be more relevant to those searches. Now, on the flip side, this is what we want to do. So you've got your website. I'm going to illustrate this in green. We want to make content that when it goes into Google's algorithm, it is specific for niche content, all right? Only niche content. That's all we want to focus on for now. Excuse my my scribbles here. So that when it pops it out into Google, you are competing, you're competing against lower difficulty websites, lower competition. Your content's going to be better, the quality is going to be better, the relevancy. And so instead, now you are on page 1, right? In theory, this is pretty easy, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. The next thing we're going to talk about is the 3 T's of SEO. These are non-negotiables you need to be doing every single week consistently to outrank your competitors in your local area and get leads through SEO. So I'm going to illustrate this with a triangle. And this is, again, the 3 T's of SEO. Okay. So the first T, tell. Make this bigger. There we go. So tell. Telling is writing content on your website, writing blogs on your website. Any new content that you produce on your website. Blogs and landing pages, tweaking content as well, adding new content to pages. This is included in the telling portion of SEO. If you were to liken this to social media, it would be, making a new post, making a YouTube video, making a Twitter or LinkedIn informational or educational post. So this is going to be blogs, landing pages, and I'll just say text, okay? The next T of SEO is trust. This is building trust, not with just your audience, but also with Google, increasing your authority score. And the way to do this is, blog posts, because that increases trust with your target audience, and Google will see that. Google will take that into account and increase your authority score. And backlinks, right? And in SEO terms, we call this off-page SEO as well, backlinks, okay? The last T of SEO is tweaking technology. And what this is in SEO terms is technical SEO. And so this is going to be Google Search Console, meta tags, alt text, all of that backend stuff, okay? In this video, we're specifically talking about telling. Now, I have videos talking about trust and tweaking, and I'll link them in the description and link them up here so you can see those videos. I'm not going to go in depth on each of those because, again, I have videos on how to do that. But the most important thing in this video is telling, writing blogs and landing pages. And so when it comes to telling, there's a couple things that we need to do to get our landing pages to the first page of Google. And the first thing that we need to take into account is, okay, what are we trying to rank for, and who are our ideal customers? What are the problems that they're facing? Because if we don't put ourselves into the shoes of our customers, then we're gonna have a really hard time ranking on Google, because again, Google is trying to match web pages, blogs, or landing pages with people who Google thinks will get use out of that information. Okay, so you need to put yourself into the shoes of your customers and ask yourself a couple things. Okay. First, what problems do they have? Okay? That's the first thing that you're going to ask yourself. What problems do they have? When do they have them? Is it now? Am I trying to rank a blog post that's talking about how to fix the issue that they have themselves? Because if that's the case, they probably have the problem now, but they're not looking for you to do it. And 3, who are they looking for? Are they looking for you to do it? Are they looking for themselves to do it, right? Who are they looking for, and how are they looking to get it done? So this could also be, how do they want it done. Okay? I can't spell today, obviously. So having these 3 questions in mind, the answers to these questions, and I want you to actually physically do this with a notebook right now or a Google Doc, whatever you have. Answer these questions as in-depth as you possibly can. Write bullet point notes. Even ask your customers when they first came to you, what problems did you have? When did you have those problems within your business or within your life? What time of year was it? What was going on? Or the external factors? And then who were you looking for, right? Did you look for someone else before you came to me? What were you looking for in terms of a solution, and how did you want to get that problem solved? Because when leads come to you, they have a way in their mind that they think they want it done. And if you're the solution, then you have to understand what kind of way they're looking to get it done and match your solution with that. So once you've got these 3 questions answered in depth, and you have what you think is basically the mind of your customer on a doc, on a journal, wherever it is, what we're going to do is hop over to a tool called SEMrush, because we're going to take that information now that we're in the minds of our customers, and we're going to start looking for keywords that we can rank for, that have a low difficulty to rank for, that your website realistically can get to the first page of Google for, and then take those keywords and make content for them. So to find these keywords, we're going to be using a tool called SEMrush. I use this for my business. You can sign up for a free trial for this tool. I'm not affiliated with them in any way. They're not paying me to say this, but it's a fantastic tool, and it's absolutely insane that you can get a free trial for this information. Now, what we're going to do is when you go to SEMrush, you sign up, it takes you to this page here, domain overview. That's like the first page that it'll usually take you to. Now, what you want to do is in the SEO tab, you might not be able to see this on my screen, but go to the keyword magic tool, where my mouse is hovering around right now, in the keyword magic tool. So what this is going to let us do is search for keywords, and SEMrush is going to tell us how many searches that keyword gets on Google every single month. And 2, it's going to tell us how difficult it is to rank for that keyword. So to give you an example here, you want to first enter in whatever country you're in. So we'll just say United States for the sake of an example here. And whatever your service is, now that we have a lot of context on your customers, you want to search up a really broad service to start with. So let's say that you're a roofer, all right? We're not going to start with the super ultra specific keywords. We're going to go top down. If you think about the funnel, we're going to go to the highest difficulty to rank for keywords first, and I'll show you why in a sec. So let's just say roofer. Okay. Now, the search term roofer is going to be a very high difficulty one to rank for. Roofing, 80 out of 100 difficulty to rank for. But as you can see, it gets a ton of searches every single month. And so this is the type of keyword, to give you an example, that these corporate, large national chains are going to be trying to compete on. And they probably can, because they've got a huge budget. Roofing companies near me, right? 74,000 searches every month in the US, but 66 out of 100 search difficulty. That's going to be a difficult one. Now, what we can do on SEMrush, which I really like, is filter by keyword difficulty. So I can see now it shows me the top difficulty keywords. I want to see the lowest difficulty keywords. As you can see, okay, so we've got a ton of these are broad search terms. Roof rack for a tundra, 10 roof flashing, 10 roof vent, right? These are a bunch of random search terms that we probably don't want to rank for. But there are going to be some in here that are going to be relevant to what we're doing. And so if you're going through this and you're looking at, like 2005 Honda Element roof rack, that is not at all related to what we're doing, right? It's just taking the search term roofer. So now what we want to do is make it more specific. If we can kind of filter these out and say, okay, well, there's not really much here for me to look at, I'm going to go back up and be a little bit more specific. So I'm going to say roofer, Virginia Beach. All right. So one way that you can be more specific is add in a location. And let's see what it gives us here. Again, it's going to be filtered. Look at this. Roof inspection, Virginia Beach. If this is what you do for your service, this one gets 50 searches every month, which doesn't sound like a lot compared to something like 74,000 searches a month. However, the keyword difficulty is 0 out of 100. Your chances of getting to the first page for this Google search are going to be extremely high. All right. Roof cleaning, Virginia Beach. Roof leak repair, Virginia Beach. Now, again, these search terms, some of these, they don't have that many searches, maybe a couple hundred per month if you're lucky. However, it's the accumulation of these keywords. We don't just want to make one page for roof inspection Virginia Beach and we're done. We want to make 50 different pages on our website for 50 different keywords. And when you add up these small keyword or small volume keywords, it adds up to thousands and thousands of searches every month. Imagine if you were able to get your website in front of 2,000 people who were qualified leads looking for your services every single month, and how many leads that would translate to for you, but also how that would change and grow your business in insane ways. The next thing you want to do is open up a Google Sheet, and this is one that I've taken that I used a really long time ago, but it's a really good example of what I want you guys to do. I want you to find 50 keywords, 50 keywords from SEMrush just to start out with, and I want you to put them in a Google Sheet just like I've done here. So for example, these are around a similar topic, right? Local SEO services Vancouver, local SEO companies Vancouver. You want to put the search volume for those individual keywords that it says on SEMrush, the difficulty to rank for, and the total. So you can just do equals sum on the search volume of the volume. And this, if you do this right, for the keywords that are very, very low difficulty to rank for, and ideally you want to rank in that, like, you want to find keywords that are in the 0 to 10 difficulty to rank for, sometimes 12, 13, but if your domain authority is really low, like below a 10 out of 100 on SEMrush or Ahrefs, then you want to look for that 0 to 10 difficulty to rank for range. So add up this total amount, and you want this total amount to be 2,000 to 5,000. And if you do this right, you can get an extra 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 visitors to the website every single month. Okay, so find 50 keywords on SEMrush. Stop the video right now, go to SEMrush, look for 50 keywords, put them in a Google Sheet with their search volumes and their difficulty, and then come back to the video. Okay, now once you have all 50 of your keywords in your Google Sheet ready to go, you're gonna come back, and what you're gonna do is start creating content for each of those keywords. And each of the keywords, it could be a landing page, it could be a blog post, depending on what the keyword is. If it's a question about your services, how long does a roof repair take? That would be more of a blog because it's, educational content. However, if it's roof repair services near me, that's someone, the intent behind that search is for them to hire a roof repair specialist. It's not for them to do it themselves, right? So if I come over here, I'm gonna write out create content, and that's gonna be blogs, landing pages on your website. Okay. Now, at this point, people might get confused. Do I need to create a landing page for every single one of those keywords? The answer is yes. Do I need to create a blog for every single one of those keywords? No. You want to decide for each keyword whether it requires a landing page or a blog, or in some cases, both. You want to be specific with your content. Again, if it's a question or someone who is looking for information about how the services work or how to do it themselves, that's more of a blog post. However, if it's someone who is clearly looking to hire someone to do the service, then that's going to be more of a landing page. And so each of your keywords should have at least one page on your website, whether that's a landing page or a blog. And again, this comes back to your Google here. Is your domain authority good? If not, I shouldn't say if not. Either way, your quality of content should be good. Your keyword density, you should have the keyword in your web page as many times as possible without just overloading it and make it obvious. It needs to be relevant to this day and age, to trends that are going on right now in your industry for that specific topic. And including all of these, creating a landing page or blog for each of your 50 keywords, it would be unreasonable for you to not rank at least half of those on the first page of Google and get hundreds, if not thousands, of extra searches and clicks, traffic to your website every single month through Google. Now, the fourth step, which is actually a bonus, is uploading any new content that you have to Google Search Console, and first optimizing that page for SEO by filling out the meta title, meta description of that page, alt tags for images, adding internal links, external links. This is the tweaking part. And I have a full video. It's an SEO checklist that you can go through to watch that video and do that for every single page that you produce on your content, or anytime that you make tweaks on your content, because this last step, uploading your website sitemap or a page that you just created on your website to Google Search Console is like the bridge between your website and having it ranked on Google. So make sure you do that last. Okay, let's do a recap of everything. So first things first, the marketing funnel. You have your competitors who are competing on and trying to rank for these broad, big keywords that are super high difficulty, super high cost, but that's okay because they've got the money and they're making boatloads of it too. But they are ignoring these niche keywords for specific locations or even specific services, and that's where you want to be competing on, because no longer are you going to be competing against these huge competitors that it's just going to be impossible to outrank, but you are now competing against your local area. And in most cases, for most of your competitors, you probably know this, your local competitors suck at SEO, but you don't anymore. Now, you also have to understand the Google algorithm, right? How it takes into account the domain authority. What kind of authority does a website have? And that's going to affect how well you rank and how well other people rank. Quality of your content, keyword density, and the relevancy of your content. You have to make sure that the content that you have on a landing page or a blog that you produce is a good amount of content, over 500 words, sometimes over 1,000 words. It's got lots of keywords in it. It's got your keywords in your headings, your heading 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., and in your paragraph text, as well as the alt tags of your images. You want to make sure the content is high quality. It's coming from an expert, which is you, which again, you can use ChatGPT to do, but you want to do it in the right way. Again, I've got a video on that as well. And you want to make it relevant to the time that you're in. Next thing, you want to have consistency of high quality niche content so that when a page, landing page, or blog goes into Google, Google sees that it's all centered around, every page, every blog is centered around one niche specific content, and you're doing that consistently, and the Google algorithm will favor you for that. Next, the 3 T's of SEO: tell, trust, and tweak. Make sure that you're adding content like blogs, landing pages, updating the text on your website. This is the telling portion of SEO. You're broadcasting a message. The next is trust, right? Building your authority score by doing blogs consistently, backlinks, any off-page SEO. This is building trust with not just you, but with Google, and Google is going to favor you for that. Then tweaking, right? This is the technical SEO. Google Search Console, meta tags, alt text, etc., right? And again, I have a video, a full checklist for technical SEO. We're talking about telling, and so you want to write down on your journal, Google Docs, get into the mind of your customers. You're doing a deep dive here, research on your customers, because that's going to play into the keyword research that you do. What problems do you have, right? When did they have them? Who were they looking for? How did they want to have it done? Answering these questions are going to give you an insight into your customers that your competitors are not doing, right? This is what's giving you the edge over your local competitors. Your national competitors are absolutely doing this. They're probably doing this every single week or every single month, right? Demographic research. And they've got a lot more data than you do. However, your local competitors are most likely not doing this much research to get into the minds of their customers, right? They might be hiring a really cheap SEO agency who's just focused on the numbers, but in reality, behind every single search is a real human being with a real problem. And so that non-tangible part of the SEO is what's going to give you that edge to outrank them with the content. Finally, once you have your 50 keywords, which I showed you how to do on SEMrush, you want to create content like blogs and landing pages, at least one page, whether it be a blog or a landing page, on your website per keyword. And doing that consistently, like you don't want to do all 50 in one day. Maybe do 5 today, 2 tomorrow, 3 the next day, or even every single week. You can do 5 one week, 3 the next week, etc. But doing it consistently, putting out high quality content, and doing the technical SEO like uploading it to Google Search Console and optimizing your pages, Google is going to favor you for that. And this would be an unreasonable volume for you not to absolutely dominate your local market for SEO. So guys, this was the video on how you as a local service business can outcompete your national competitors. Very simple, 4 steps. Go do this, guys. If you got good results on this, let me know. If this was informative or added value to your business at all, give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments. Would love to hear from you guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.